Shalakaya Chaksurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Guru Abhishta Shapurakam Guru Ganarashisha Sambhushitam Chinta Chinta Samastu Vedanipunam Shri Rupa Panthanugam Govinda Bhidam Ujjalam Vartanam Bhaktanvitam Sundaram Mande Vishwagurum Cha Divya Bhagavat Premno Hibij Pradam Devam Divyatanam Suchandravadanam Valarka Chelanchitam Sandranandapuram Sadeka Varnam Vairagya Vidyam Budim Shri Siddhanta Nidim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Maram Vandetam Shubhadam Madeka Sharanam Nasiswaram Śrīdharam Shri Siddhanta Saraswati Vidito Gauriya Gurvanvaye Bhato Bhanu Riva Prabhat Gagneyo Gaura Sankirtanaye Mayavadati Mingilo Daragatanu Jivaniman Krishna Prema Sudabdi Gahan Sukham Pradat Prabhum Tam Bhaje Namo Gaura Kishauraya Bhaktavadhuta Murtaye Gaurangra Padma Bhangaya Radha Bhava Nishevine Vande Bhakti Vinodam Shri Gaura Shakti Sarupakam Bhakti Shastragya Samrajam Radharasa Sudhanadim Gaura Brajashita Shaira Vaishnavaira Vanda Vigraham Jagannatha Prabhum Vande Premabdhim Vidya Vaishnamam Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhaivacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Sarupakam Bhaktavtaram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Namo Mahavadanaye Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaurutuse Namo. So we're broadcasting at the order and sanction of Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardhan Mahārāj, and trying for some service at the lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhariju, the beautiful Sokalpuri Seva Ashram. Syamaji, namaskar, welcome.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So today's topic that we have is a floating world of experience, and it's from the subjective evolution of consciousness by Om Vishnupad Śrīla Bhakti Rakṣhak Śrīdhar Dev-Goswāmī Mahārāj. And we have access to this and some understanding of this only by the mercy of Srila Govinda Mahārāj. Otherwise, these topics are really very high. But in any case, together we will read and we will see where we get. If you actually see like the religion, externally religion can have first level religion. If you see the different varieties that you'll see there, the most basic are based on fear. Then second level, you can say, if you see, you will find conceptions that are based on obligation, duty. We must do this, and this is our duty, and so forth. And then, but we come to the real, like Vedanta, kind of the vision given by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then there's no obligation, there's no fear. It's love and affection, spontaneous love and affection. So which is like kind of like the final stage in the evolutionary process. And in if we look at Bhagavad Gita, it's dealing with this vision. It deals with this vision that at different various levels, as we purify ourselves and as we see beyond the apparent, or we see beyond the eyes of the flesh by higher grace, it is an actual vision. It is not metaphorical or mythical, as some conceptions do hold. Let me, I'll share this with you, that there are conceptions within Hinduism that treat everything that is given in Bhagavad Gita as totally metaphorical. But it is not. So, in the beginning, if you allow me, I will share with you, like, just there's many others, but there's like couple verses that I found are relevant to our topic before we get to Param Guru Maharaj's reading. I think you will appreciate that. So if you permit me, this first verse that I have in Srimad Bhagavad Gita is chapter 5, verse number 18, which is the Karma Sannyas Yoga, or the path of renunciation of action. So here, the Lord says in this verse, the verse says, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shuni Cheva Cha Shopake Cha Pandita Samadarshina. So he says, if you read the translation, the enlightened souls see transcendence within all living beings, whether the humble and learned Brahmana, the cow, the elephant, the dog, or the dog eater. Therefore, they are to be known as Pandita, men of true wisdom. So this vision is real. And Vidya Vinaya Sampanne, someone who has reached that stage, actually sees what is said here, rather than this being metaphorical. This is not metaphorical. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shuni Cheva Cha Shopake Cha Pandita Samadarshina. So they're seeing this vision, or this higher vision of consciousness in all entities. And then the eyes of the flesh, or what they see, the outer experience, is superseded by that higher vision. Does that make sense? Then there is another verse in the next chapter, which is Dhyan Yoga, path of meditation. This is, let me see. Yeah, so this is verse number, chapter 6, verse number 8. Dhyan Yoga, path of meditation. And what does this say? Jnana Vijnana Triptatma Kutastho Vijitendriya Yuktit Uchchate Yogi Samloshashma Kanchana. So here again, let's read the translation. one who is always satisfied within by both knowledge and realization. So, both knowledge and realization. Gyan Vigyan. Right? Gyan Vijnana Triptatma. Who is always fixed in his spiritual nature, Kutastho and Vijitendriya. They have learned the basics of discipline of the senses. So, Kutastho Vijitendriya, who is sense controlled and who has the vision of equality for a clod of earth, a rock, or gold. Sama, Losh, Ashma, and Kanchana. Kanchana is gold. It is said that such a person has attained yoga. So, with these verses, it is indicated that there is this actual vision that develops. And it supersedes the external vision. It is not metaphorical and it is not mythical, it is 100% real. So, with that, I would like to get to our business of today, which is the floating world of experience. This is chapter 5 in the subjective evolution of consciousness. That's the publication. Chapter 5. It's called A Floating World of Experience. So we will read from this. Nandakishore Prabhu, can you please log out because you have like 1/4 of the screen. Yes. Okay. So now this is Param Guru Mahārāj. There are many schools of atheist philosophers. The most famous atheist in Indian philosophy was Charvaka Muni. His philosophy is paralleled by the extreme atheists of Western philosophy. According to their opinion, consciousness is the byproduct of the chemical combinations of different material substances. With the dissolution of this physical body, neither the soul nor consciousness remains. Only the physical combination of the different elements of the body remain. Just as the combination of different chemicals produces something more than the individual chemicals themselves. The physical combination of different material elements produce consciousness. With the dissolution of this fleshy body, nothing remains. This philosophy was first propounded in the West by Epicurus. Just a brief pause here. Just want to Namaskar Sangeeta ji.
Namaskar.
Here, the Eastern or the Indian philosophy, again, it's within Hinduism, it's atheistic philosophy. Arun Prabhu, can you admit? Oh, there we go. Namaskar, Anil ji.
Namaskar, sir.
Hare Krishna. So, he is drawing this parallel between the Indian philosopher Charvaka Muni, who is of the opinion and who propounds this, that this theory that consciousness is actually a byproduct of chemicals and not the other way around. That's what's important here. Back to Param Guru Maharaj. Then there is Buddhism. The Buddhists say that when the physical body is dissolved, the subtle body, the mental system, goes on to take another birth. The Buddhists admit transmigration from one body to the next, or reincarnation. According to them, although this body may vanish, we must enter another body according to our karma. If we work in a particular way, then the subtle body, the mental system, dissolves and nothing remains. According to the Buddhists, there is no soul. Sankaracharya's philosophy is similar, with a slight difference. The Buddhist school says that the individual soul does not exist. According to them, there is no permanent individual soul. Shankaracharya has also said that no permanent individual soul exists. But Shankaracharya says that conscious substance, Brahman, exists as the ultimate reality. This is the difference between Shankaracharya and the Buddhists. According to Shankara, consciousness itself is true. It is only the consciousness of separate existence that is false. In his view, the individual soul is only a reflection of the conscious substance, which is the ultimate reality. With the dissolution of the mental system, each soul's consciousness of individuality vanishes. It is non-existent in that ultimate plane of reality. He gives the example of the moon and its reflection in a mirror. Remove the mirror and there is no reflection. His view is that all individual souls are reflections from a common source, Brahman, consciousness. So Shankaracharya says, in reality, individual souls are one and the same with Brahman. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's interpretation of Vedanta is different from Shankaracharya's. Sri Chaitanya says that we have to accept the Vedic truth in its entirety, without any modification. Shankaracharya has accepted only a few Vedic aphorisms which constitute a partial representation of the truth. His four principal expressions taken from the Vedas are Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, Tattvamasi, thou art that.
I'll take care of it.
Oh, thank you. So first is Aham Brahmasmi, second is Tattvamasi, thou art that. Soham, I am that. And Sarvam Khalva Idam Brahm, everything is Brahman. Sri Chaitanya analyzed the meaning of the aphorism Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma as follows. According to Sankaracharya, everything is one. He says Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Spirit is true, the world is false. Sankaracharya says that Brahma, spirit, exists, and that Sarva, everything, does not exist. If this is actually true and everything is one, then why does the question of existence or non-existence arise at all? Do you understand the question? Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, no problem. I'll repeat it. So here it says, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is analyzing Sripada Sankaracharya's conception, and this is how he's analyzing. Sankaracharya says he says Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Spirit is true, the world is false. Sankaracharya says that Brahma, spirit, exists, and that Sarva, everything, does not exist. If this is actually true, and everything is one, everything is one, right? Then why does the question of existence or non-existence arise at all? You understand? Because everything is one. So what is the question of existing or non-existing? Anilji, do you follow?
Yeah, I followed the question.
Okay. Now further analysis. Back to Param Guru Mahārāj. It says, in the aphorism, Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma, Sarva, everything exists, and Brahma, spirit, also exists. In this expression, many exists and one also exists. There is many and there is one. Arun Prabhu, I have a request. If you could turn the camera a little bit up, because I'm projecting this, yes, a little bit more, so we can see your lotus face. There we go. Thank you, Prabhuji. So once again, Param Guru Mahārāj is saying here, in this expression, many exists and one also exists. There is many and there is one. Again, if everything is one, then the question arises, to whom are we speaking? If everything is one, and to whom are we speaking? For whom have the Vedas come with this advice? Both the relative and the absolute exist together. They are coexistent. The absolute and the relative are also represented in the Vedantic aphorism Tat Tvam Asi. Thou art that. Tat, or that, is there, and Tvam, you, is also there. They're both there. Both variety and unity are found represented in the aphorism Tat Tvamasi. But Sankaracharya accepts one and rejects the other. His explanation is therefore a misrepresentation of the original meaning of the Vedanta Sutras. it is not a proper interpretation of the Vedas because he has thrust his own idea or conception forward in the name of the Vedanta. Shankaracharya's interpretation of Vedanta is artificial. It is selfish and provincial. This is the refutation of Shankaracharya given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And as far as we are concerned, it cannot be seen otherwise. If we try to follow the interpretation of Shankaracharya, then what meaning can be found in the statement of the Upanishads? Yato va imani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti. Once again, Yato va imani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti. The absolute truth is He from whom everything is coming, who is maintaining everything, within whom everything exists, and into whom everything enters at the time of annihilation. Yato va imani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti yat prant abhisamvishanti tad vijigyasassa tadaiva brahma. What does this mean? Does the statement say that the absolute truth is non-differentiated? It is sufficient for our understanding to accept its direct meaning. The self-explanatory meaning of these words is sufficient to understand the simple statement of the Upanishads. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu defeats Shankaracharya through common sense. This is the unique characteristic of his argument. He defeats his philosophical opponents not with difficult, abstract, intellectual arguments, but with common sense. When Sri Chaitanya wanted to demonstrate the supremacy of Narayana over Shiva, he said that one may just consider the position of the Ganga or the Ganges. The Ganges is the water that washes the feet of Narayana. Brief pause here. If you remember last time we said that Mahavishnu reclining in the causal ocean, right? And so it's touching his feet. Washes the feet of Narayana, back to Param Guru Maharaj. And yet she rests on the head of Shiva. From this, we can easily use common sense to see which of the two holds the superior position. When Sri Chaitanya wanted to show that Krishna is greater than Narayana, he pointed to the example of Lakshmi Devi. She aspires after the association of Krishna. Although she has everything with Narayana, still she has some aspiration for the company of Krishna. On the other hand, the gopis have no attraction for Narayana. When they meet Narayana, they pray that by his grace their devotion to Krishna may be enhanced. In this way, by applying common sense, intuition, we may judge the nature of reality. Intuition will be far more useful than abstruse argument. Vedanta confirms this in the aphorism Tarko Pratishthanat. Argument can never help us reach any real conclusion. Rather, it is only intuition and common sense that can really help us. This is the recommendation of Sri Chaitanya, and this is how he refuted many scholars, including even the great, all-conquering Digvijay Pandit of Kashmir. Question. The Buddhists say that after one transcends sensory experience, he will find that underneath it all there is actually no foundation of life. One will find that there's nothing there but the void. According to their teaching, after our experience is removed, there is no soul, no basis of existence. How do the Vaishnava Acharyas deal with the Buddhism? Srila Śrīdhar Mahārāj. In South India, and especially in Andhra Pradesh, there are many Buddhist scholars. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met the Buddhists when he was passing through South India. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Vedana Maniya Bauddha Hat Nastika. Because the Buddhists do not accept the Vedic scriptures, they are considered atheists. Sankaracharya, in a hidden way, also preaches on behalf of the Buddhists. The difference between them is that Sankaracharya admits the existence of Brahman as the fundamental reality, whereas the Buddhists say that ultimately nothing exists. The Vaishnava Acharyas disagree with both Shankaracharya and with Buddha. They say that the jiva is an individual, eternal soul. This particle of spiritual energy known as the jiva or spirit is tiny, like the dust particles of earth or the pencil rays of the sun. There is the supreme infinite soul or consciousness and the finite sparks of consciousness. Their relationship may be compared to the relationship between a great fire and the sparks that emanate from the fire. The sparks that emanate from the fire may become covered by darkness, but when they re-enter the shelter of that great conflagration, they are again perfectly situated. To refute the atheism of the Buddhists, we may look to the modern European philosopher Descartes. Descartes says, I doubt everything. Whatever you say, I doubt. Then Descartes says, the question that arises is, does the doubter exist? True or false? You have to start your search for truth from there. Who am I? To whatever truth is related, whatever idea is stated, one may say, I oppose that statement, I doubt it. Then the question arises, does the doubter exist? Or is he non-existent? If he is non-existent, then there can be no question of doubting. If one takes the position of an extreme skeptic, he must explain his own position. He may assert, whatever you have said I doubt, but he must discern whether or not he really exists. That must be the starting point for any further inquiry. And what is the doubter? Is he an atom? A particle of dust? Is he without knowledge? And if so, then how has he come to assert doubt? This question should be examined. Whenever one may doubt, the question must be asked, who is the doubter? Is he conscious? Does he have reason? Has he any existence at all? Or is he imaginary? Is it matter that is submitting the question? Or is a unit of consciousness asking the question? What is the origin of this question? Who is asking the question? Has it come from the conscious region? If it has, then what shall we consider as the basis of existence? Consciousness or matter? A fossil or God? Brief pause here. Arun Prabhu, would you like to express any?
Yes, Prabhu, I was holding back. I didn't want to interrupt the...
I could sense it. That's why I thought we'd take a little pause and go ahead.
So, what has been said in the latter half? Even at this moment, the aspect of the materialistic world, the highest Gnostics, which are really those who swear by their religion of observation and science in their own way, they themselves have come to a conclusion that the world exists and you can experience because you need consciousness to entangle with the matter for the experience element to be even observed. Now, observation is the lowest element of experience, for example. Everything is built on it. So the Charvak philosophy might have come 2200 years ago, but has been destroyed in the last few decades by the very fact that you exist. The very fact that consciousness to observe and perceive is not coming from is not dependent on something else. It's a different substance compared to the matter. And then the other parts that we've been discussed is clearly there are two different tattvas. Even so, all that I'm saying right now is just being a material scientist. The fundamental notion of understanding the current thought process in scientific world is there are two different independent entities. Consciousness, or one that experiences, and matter. And the casting of experience comes only by that mechanism of quantum entanglement. That is the only way to observe and experience anything. So I think it sets a very strong foundation in terms of the limited understanding of even the scientists that these are two different things. And something else was coming to my mind, which is on similar lines, but I forgot right now. Another aspect, and this was based on last week's class, clearly the way Param Guru Mahārāj explained how this thing came about being, the Mahatvattva and then the Ahankar. That is totally compatible with the limited understanding that we are trying to get from bottoms up, which is knowledge and ability to understand itself is an intrinsic part of consciousness. And that is a current understanding, and it is hard to argue against this fundamental understanding. Of course, what the darshan that is being talked about in this book is it's a superset, it's much more extensive and complete. All that I'm saying is from a very small microcosm of the current materialistic understanding, it's compatible and it demolishes some of the previous assertions of Charavad and even today modern atheists. That's all I can say.
Wonderful. Anilji, would you like to say?
No, sir, I don't have any word to say. Quite unfortunately.
All right. Chinmoy Prabhu?
Well, I'm just always surprised that scientists who study the natural world can be atheists. It just seems illogical, really, because if you look at there's this one wasp in the Amazon that stings a beetle, paralyzes it, stings it in the head, paralyzes it, and then stings it in the belly and puts its larvae in there, and the larvae eat the insect. And the scientists are going to tell you, well, that's natural selection and mutation. No consciousness is behind that. And that's just utterly ridiculous. That, are you a logical person? Are you a rational person? How can you believe that some wasp is just going around the forest stinging beetles until it finds out, oh, well, this works. And still then, there has to be consciousness that this is effective, this is working. And there's so many examples of this in the natural world. And I think scientists just use a different word than consciousness. They use nature. That's just nature. That's just life. But
or awareness.
What's that?
Or awareness.
Oh, yeah. And it just always shocks me that, if anybody takes a little time to understand, to look at the natural world, there has to be consciousness there. There has to be consciousness moving behind everything.
Yeah.
I'd like to mention one more thing, Prabhuji, and that is some of the latest stuff that has come out in the last 1 year is this, on the subject of if this matter or material is objective and that our experience is subjective and the object remains the same, is perspective, gives you a different subjective thing. This has been the foundation till now of science and what I say is the atheistic understanding. Yes, Chinmay Prabhu, I'm using the word in a word atheist in a conventional sense. The latest understanding is that the world is not, I repeat again, the world is not objective. Now that pulls the rug from such philosophies and such people who say the matter is unmoving and subjectively your experience is different. The latest understanding is the world, what we used to think is objective, Now the latest understanding is the world is subjective. And it is subjective depending on the whims of the consciousness observing it. This is the latest one, and it destroys the previous arguments and philosophies. Which also means then consciousness has not come from matter. What this means is what we have been holding till now, that this matter is objective, holds its nature, that is the meaning of objective, holds its nature, while the subject could slice various things. What we see is, no, even this world, the matter is fickle-minded and is not objective. Actually, the world is subjective to the same degree as the consciousness wants it to be.
So in essence, you're saying, or you're agreeing with this theory that the environment is conscious,
Yeah.
right?
Which is another way to say it.
The environment is conscious, just as we are, just as I am as an individual. The environment is conscious.
Right.
So we are part of that, but somehow or other, because of our separate interest, we are living in this illusion that we're separate, we're a separate entity from the environment, and we then go and exploit. And another thing that we were talking about as atheists, if you really see, as we're talking from the perspective of consciousness, is atheism is a sort of a belief. It's a faith.
It's a
Isn't it? Isn't it? Because you believe in it. And faith is an attribute, intrinsic attribute of consciousness.
Yes.
So, by saying or by professing that I'm an agnostic or I'm an out and out atheist, the only thing that you're saying is, I do not conform to this belief of yours that there's order. I believe in chaos. But I do believe. I do have faith. So faith one must have. Just as in this material world or in this physical world, one has to breathe. So one must have faith. As a unit of consciousness, one can even understand that. It's just common sense. Right?
Yes.
And this is the entire, if you see, sadhana and service in our development phase is all meant for us to correct our vision and not to change the world. If we can understand that, then we will understand that environment is always favorable. It is always coming to help us. But easier said than done. And how Param Guru Mahārāj has explained starting from Charvaka, completely atheistic, then going on to Buddhism, where there is some form of some order, then, although that is also, Buddhism is also kind of atheistic, then moving on to Sripada Sankaracharya, and we know the reasons why he did not say the entire truth and only stuck with the partial truth, but that's another topic in of itself. And then after that, complete full-fledged theism, by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Achinta Bheda Bhed, simultaneous oneness and difference of the individual with the complete whole. So,
Prabhu,
yes, Chinmay Prabhu.
Amongst many people that I've met, the idea of Sankaracharya, this impersonalism, is gaining much ground because people like to think they're God, and so they often are propounding this philosophy that we are one, we are all one, and the goal is to merge, is to become that one, and then there's great joy in becoming that one. And I was discussing with this one person, and I was trying to get across the fact that you joining into this one, you no longer exist. You will not experience that. So, and they couldn't get their head around that, but they're like, but I will be in that. And I was like, no, you won't be there anymore.
True.
And Mahaprabhu, he's saying, yes, that exists. But then there's also something else that exists.
Yes, very important. Now that see, Gaudiya Vaishnavism is very fine. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's never denied aparokshanubhuti or that level of Brahman existence. It is there in Bhagavad Gita also. He has never denied it. He has never denied it. But just like Chinmay Prabhu said, which is very, very important and fine, is that there is gradation beyond that aparokshanubhuti. And yes, there is immense joy. We are told there is immense joy in experiencing that existence, which is higher, completely different from the physical existence that we're used to. Brahmano hi pratisthaham amritasya vyayasya cha shashvatasya cha dharmasya sukhasya ekantikasya cha. This is Bhagavad Gita. Sukhasya ekantikasya cha. It exists. But Brahmano hi pratisthaham, it entirely rests on me. And who's saying that? The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So it has to be, Par Brahman is saying, Brahman rests on me. So where is the problem? So there is this intense joy. And that joy, it has been explained, is from the relief factor of birth and death. So-called Sayujya Mukti is liberation from birth and death, the cycle of birth and death. But at the same time, we are told there is no positive engagement at that stage. It is only a stage, intermediate stage, where all the negative has been done away with. So because of that relief, which is humongous, one feels joy. Right? And simply looking at Bhagavad Gita, na tvevaham jatanasam, na tam neve janadipa, na chaiva na bhavishyama, sarve vayam mata param. In one shloka, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has made clear that there was never a time when you, me, all these different kings did not exist as we exist right now. They will continue to exist. So where is the question of this oneness? Right? We say oneness, all is one, and this huge Brahman, the all-inclusive aspect, that is not all in all. That is all Lord Chaitanya is saying. He's not denying the fact that it is there. So thank you, Chinmoy for bringing that up because it's really important. Yes, Anilji, please chime in.
Just one quick question about this sloka, right? So when he's saying that there has been never been a time, neither me, neither you, or nor all these things, right? So here both the forms are being talking about the physical and the what do you call it, consciousness form is talked about, or it's only being the consciousness form which is saying that me, you, and everything else always exists.
So physicality is something from the absolute perspective is not that important, but as a unit of consciousness, what he's saying is that individuality has never ceased to exist.
Okay.
Now they may have had different bodies, they may have existed on subtle planes, they may have been elsewhere. There are so many different universes and existences, but the point being that individual unit of consciousness has always existed. As it exists right now, in the future, it will continue to exist.
Right. There is no question of oneness, right? So always.
No, see, oneness.
Is always there.
No, oneness is a intermediate level of realization, which is called the Brahman realization, where one's higher vision of reality supersedes the vision of physicality, to put it in a different way. And then one starts to exist, we are told, on the level of consciousness. So the two verses that we studied before we actually got to this are indicative of that kind of vision and existence. Shuni chev cha shapake cha pandita samadarshina. What is that samadarshi? What is he seeing? What is that pandit seeing that is the same in the cow, in the dog, in the chandal, all these different persons, in the learned pandit also, it's all the same. For him, it's all the same. And he's bowing down and saying namaskar to all of them. What is he seeing? Is it metaphorical? Is it mythical? Or is it some real vision? Does that make sense?
Yeah, he's seeing that unit of consciousness, right?
Yes! He has come to that actual physical, not physical, but real vision of reality. May not be in its entirety. There are further gradations, but that is a quantum step from the eyes and ears of the flesh to the level of existence on the conscious plane. It's a quantum step.
Okay.
Prabhu, what is day to the yogi is night to the materialist, and what is night to the materialist is day to the yogi.
Ya nisha sarvabhutanam tasyam jagrati sanyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sa nisha pashyato mune. Jai. Yes, that vision. So the materialist, or the eyes of the flesh and ears, and the persons who live on this plane and who make their homes on this plane permanently, for them, nothing else exists. So that conscious existence on that conscious plane is night to them. Night means it doesn't exist. And to that introspective sage who has reached that stage, for them, this existence is night. They don't care for this. They're indifferent. That's the meaning. And these stages that are explained are not metaphorical, they're real. Nothing in the Bhagavad Gita is metaphorical. It's all real. Nothing that our acharyas are giving is just metaphorical and mythical. It's all real. It's all a vision of reality. So with that, if you permit, then we're going to pause here and continue our discussion. I think it's really wonderful that we can get together and discuss these by the grace of our affectionate guardians, and we're able to do this together. Even in the times when we are physically not together, doesn't matter. Now, when we had this discussion, we were all together, right?
Yes.
So, let me bring on the EKG. You know who said that last time? Sripad Palguni Krishna Prabhu. He gave that name. He says, call them EKG. I'm like, that's wonderful. We'll call them the EKG group. So let me bring them on. Oh, namaskar, Preeti ji.
They updated Microsoft. Yeah, they updated Teams.
Okay, here we go.
Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda.
Bhaja Shri Krishna
Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda.
Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Hari Haraya Namah Krishnaya Yadavaya Namaha.
Hari Haraya Namah Krishna Yadavaya Namaha.
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Gopal Govinda Ram Shrimad Madhusudan.
Gopal Govinda Madhusudan.
Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan.
Giridhari Gopinath.
Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra.
Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra.
Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Gadadhara Shivasadi
Jaya Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath.
Jaya Rupa
Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath.
Shri जीव गोपाल
इच्छाय गोसाई कोरी चरण वंदन
इच्छा गोपाल तेरी चरण
जहाँ होते विज्ञानाश अभिष्ट पुराण
जहाँ होते विघ्न
इच्छाय गोसाई जार मोहि तरदास
इच्छा गोसाई जानी करदा
तास बारा पदरेणु मोरा पंचगास
आस बारो पदरेणु पंचगास
तांडेरा चरण से भी भक्ता सनेवास
आंध्र चरण तेरी
जना में मोरा ए अभिलाष
जन्म मोरा
इच्छाय गोसाई जबे ब्रजा कुलाबास
इच्छा गोसाई जबे
श्री राधा कृष्ण नित्य लीला कोरिलो प्रकाश
श्री राधा कृष्ण नित्य लीला
आनंद बोलो हरि भजा वृंदावन
आनंद बोलो हरि भज वृंदावन
श्री गुरु वैष्णव पदे मजैया मान
श्री गुरु वैष्णव पदे
श्री गुरु वैष्णव पद पद्मा कोरियास
श्री गुरु वैष्णव पद
हरि नाम संकीर्तन को है नरोत्तम दास
हरि नाम संकीर्तन
हरि हराय नमः कृष्णाय यादवाय नमः
हरि हराय नमः कृष्णाय
यादवाय माधवाय केशवाय नमः
यादवाय माधवाय केशवाय नमः
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा
हरे राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे राम
निताय गौरा हरि बोल निताय गौरा हरि बोल
निताय गौर हरि
जय जय गुरुदेव गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव
जय जय गुरुदेव गुरुदेव जय जय
जय गौरंगा सुंदर जय गौरंगा सुंदर जय गौरंगा सुंदर जय गौरंगा सुंदर
जय गौरंग सुंदर जय
Jai. Any volunteers for Jai Dhwani? Okay, Anika, take it away.
Jai Krishna
Sugar Ganga Gandhavar Govind Raji Das Vishnu Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishwatum Hankra Parva Chakra Varata Shishmat Sundar Dev-Goswāmī Mahārāj Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Om Vishwatum Hankra Parva Chakra Varata Shishmat Rakṣhak Dev-Goswāmī Mahārāj Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Om Vishwatum Hankra Parva Chakra Varata Shishmat Bhakti Sinasa Savasti Thakur Ki Jai.
Jai. Jai.
Shiva Deva Vijay Bhushan ki jai.
Jai.
Shiva Vishwanath Saraswati Guru ki jai.
Jai.
Shilo Sama Shama Mandir Shubha Guru ki jai.
Jai.
Bhagwan Das Thakur ki jai.
Jai. Jai.
Sabasana Srinithananda Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Mahaprabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Jai Shri Shri Krishna Gopa Gopinath Swami Kunti Radha Girdhar Govardhan ki jai.
Jai.
Lakshmi Baldeva ki jai.
Jai.
The Bhakti Vigna Vinashaya Sri Narasimha Deva ki jai.
Jai.
Bhagwan Mahārāj ki jai.
Jai.
Gopal Mahani ki jai.
Jai.
Haji ki jai.
Jai.
Antarashan Bhagavatam Charitam Charamapla ki jai.
Jai.
Vaishnava Rasada ki jai.
Jai.
Akhurak Maki Chaitanya Samat ki jai.
Jai.
Harisa Samat ki jai.
Jai.
Sri Chaitanya Saraswati ki jai.
Jai.
Vishwa Kabir Hadisa Kamat ki jai.
Jai.
To the Mindful ki jai.
Jai.
To the Nobody ki jai.
Jai.
The one Dan Dan ki jai.
Jai.
Baladeva Subhadra Ramukma ji ki jai.
Jai.
Shri Govinda Kunda ki jai.
Jai.
Shri Govinda ki jai.
Jai.
Desa Bhaktivinoda ki jai.
Jai. Jai. Hari Hari Bol. Shri Anika Preeti and Bikram ji ki jai. Shripad Arun Krishna Prabhu ki jai. Shripad Chinmadev Prabhu ki jai. Shripad Anil ji and family ki jai. Sangeeta ji ki jai. Shama ji ki jai. The EKG party ki jai. Ava ji ki jai.
Jaram Prabhu ki jai.
Jai Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardhan Mahārāj ki jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Nirmal Acharya Mahārāj ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Acharya Brind ki jai. Sri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. All the assembled devotees ki jai. Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol.
Ava Didi ki jai.
Jai.
Jai.